Good morning, all. My name is Aria St. Louis. I'm a marine biologist, studied at University of the West Indies, Mona, and who added a suite of molecular tools to my bag of skills to address terrestrial and marine wildlife conservation and management. Now, climate change is having a huge impact on our regional biodiversity, and this has led me to move from my most engaging academic pursuits to support climate change resilience, particularly in the context of policy formulation and implementation within government. My first point to you this morning is more of a plea to make sure that we build those bridges so that the hard work that we've heard over the past few days, which is impressive, gets to the point where governments can utilize this for good policy formulation and decision making. At the outset, I want to recognize and thank the BMUB, German Federal Ministry of Environment, with whom Grenada continues to partner successfully with for their support of ICCAS. I also want to recognize GIZ and UNDP as key implementing partners. I want to thank the 5 Cs for the opportunity provided to us to present here today, and for listening to the countries. I think that the CCAP, the Climate Change Adaptation Program, is a wonderfully robust project that dovetails well with Grenada's climate resilience actions. And we are looking forward to a fruitful collaboration with our 5 Cs partners to promote adaptation action. Today I'm delighted to present one of our crown jewels, the Integrated Climate Change Adaptation Strategies Program, or ICCAS for short, with my implementation colleagues, Mr. Dieter Rothenberger of GIZ and Mr. Martin Barato of UNDP. Together we will share key lessons over the next few minutes with you of the ICCAS experience, but you bear with me very quickly because I must make sure that I give you the appropriate context in terms of what we expected, what were the achievements, and then from that, the lessons learned. So just quickly, the ICCAS has its overarching goal in red in the middle, and that was to increase the resilience of communities and ecosystems through urgently needed adaptation action. There are 4 components to this, and you can see them sort of in a circle around the middle main objective. The first is dealing with institutional mainstreaming of climate change adaptation. The second is drilling down into key vulnerable sectors in the Grenada context, and here we focus on water as a sector, and we focus on coastal zone and coastal zone management. The third component focused on a community fund to help support climate adaptation action at the community level. And the fourth component addressed enabling access to financing. I invite my colleagues now to speak a little bit about, first, their experiences under each of these 4 components, and then I will come back to you to discuss a little bit of the lessons learned.
Thank you very much, Aria. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dieter Rothenberger, as mentioned, and technically I think I'm quite far away from Aria's scientific background. As an economist, I'm very happy to have with Dr. Bino a fellow economist on the panel, so that it doesn't look too embarrassing as an economist to speak after a marine biologist. Yes, so Aria, you mentioned basically the 4 areas GIZ has worked on within ICCAS. Of the 4 areas, GIZ was in charge for, let's say, 2.5. The first one is on the mainstreaming elements. And mainstreaming means, on the one hand, looking into vulnerable sectors and make sure that the strategies with regard to climate change are properly integrated in the national policies. And the second element is a climate risk assessment. And the third element is an overarching planning tool. So for the first element, we looked into key sectors, and this includes, and I think this is not rocket science for all of you here in this room, agriculture, health, coastal, water and education, where we have worked mainly of course on policy integration. We have also were able to fund some pilot projects, did a lot of capacity building in the individual sectors. We also, and this is what you see on top, the top picture, we have developed a toolkit for schools which help to integrate climate change in already the primary curriculum. A toolkit for schools which is called Green's Climate Champion. And this has been developed in close cooperation with the Ministry of Education, with about 40 teachers who have been working more or less as a sounding board for that and have been trained in depth for that topic. The second part, climate risk assessment, this was given to us basically right from the beginning, and we said, okay, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Let's work with what is already here in the region and what has been developed in and for the region. And so we have worked with the 5 Cs on a training of trainers for sea coral in Grenada, which means we have now about 15 people as trainers in Grenada who are able to present and deal with sea coral, not just to apply, but actually to also use as multipliers for other stakeholders, for other ministries where they are actually now like advisors for sea coral. And so in total we have about 100 stakeholders who have been already exposed to sea coral in Grenada. And a thing which is very important, and I'll come back to that in a later slide, is that sea coral has been used now for mandatory climate screening of all new public sector investment projects. So PSIP's public sector investment project. So basically when the budget is being prepared, all new projects which need to go into the budget have to be screened by the respective planning officers with sea coral to identify what is the climate relevance of these projects. Then another key achievement and a key result of the project was the development of a national adaptation plan, which focused a lot on not so much getting the sectors, or integrating basically the sectors into the adaptation plan, but integrating adaptation into the sectors. So it was a very bottom-up approach. We had about, I think, 12 sector workshops and a total involvement of more than 160 people from the different sectors, but not only ministries, we also include private sector, we had NGOs, other agencies, departments, and women youth groups and so on, who all contributed to make that national adaptation plan really a national plan and not a something which has been developed just on a desk as on paper. The process overall was guided by the UNFCCC technical guidelines for the national adaptation plan process, and we have a total of 12 so-called programs of action in that adaptation plan. Not all of them are focusing on sectors. We have about, I think, 8 which are focusing on sectors. We've got a number which are focusing on the enabling framework, like institutional development, like also financing, like capacity building, data collection. So a number of these programs of action are not focusing only on really action on the ground, but actually to look into what is needed to implement and to derive effectively these actions and to implement the projects and effectively. Component 2, as Ari has mentioned, was like meant as a cross-cutting component in terms of looking at sectors, but not looking at sectors which are very cross-cutting by nature. In a small island, obviously water management and coastal zone management are the key sectors in this regard. And so we had an activity to launch and to initiate a first large-scale rainwater housing project, and that means not on individual household level, which we have seen, and I think those who have heard yesterday presentation of Kariakou, that's very well known, but actually a larger scale community-based project run by the public utility Nawasa, in order to overcome some of the problems which have been mentioned yesterday as well, in terms of the medium-term operation and maintenance, which needs funding, which needs expertise. So the idea was to introduce that rainwater harvesting system as part of the normal public pipe network system, and supply the community of Blaise with now an improved water supply. Coastal zone management, just quickly also, there was a lot of activities going on and focusing on the institutional level first. So we were looking into and developed a coastal zone policy together with some colleagues from Barbados. We are right now in the process of finalizing a Coastal Zone Act based on the policy. As one implementation structure for that policy and act, the Coastal Zone Task Force has been set up, which is a mixed task force from more or less all ministries and public entities and NGOs who have a stake in the coastal zone, be it financial, technical, be it a harbor, be it the water utility. So there's about 15 people in that coastal zone task force who deal now with questions relevant for the coastal zone. And one key thing, because that has been mentioned during the past days as well, the question of data and data availability. We were facing that, I think until 2004, there was a relatively regular and robust collection of beach profiles in Grenada, and that stopped after the Hurricane Ivan, and we were able, together with AREA and the Environment Division, to reinitiate that program with procurement of new equipment, capacity building, training, and in involving a lot of other stakeholders also outside the ministries to develop and collect regularly the data from the beach profiles, which then of course can be used in policy decision making in the future. Just quickly on for the coastal zone management, finally, a pilot project which has been initiated in an area which had some problems with mangroves and mangrove protection. So we started a pilot project on co-management of mangroves and mangrove protection, and that included, beside the capacity building for planting and monitoring and basically then also sustainable harvesting of mangroves, alternative livelihoods like mangrove honey farming, beekeeping, introduction, ecotourism to be developed. So basically to show to the communities who have been partially also over-harvesting the mangroves that mangroves have a medium, long-term sustainable value for them, and creating that value chain for them as well. I don't want to go into the climate smart part in depth. We've heard a lot of that already. Just one word, we're facing in Grenada, we're still facing the issue that a lot of the officers in Grenada have not really had a lot of experience with climate smart agriculture. There's like a generation shift is happening already, with the younger generation haven't had sufficient exposure. So we have worked on, again, training of trainers for agriculture officers, and then on the replication of this training, and to integrate climate smart agriculture actually in the strategic plan of the ministry, so that it is not seen as an add-on on the normal workload. Then my final slide on what GIZ has been supporting in that project is on access to climate finance. Here we were working on the one hand on an effective framework for resource mobilization. So we are looking again using the CCORL tool on a climate sensitive budget analysis to see again how much of the budget actually is or like climate proof, which element of the budget actually would need some kind of climate proofing but didn't get it, so which are at risk, if you want, with regard to climate change, because it hasn't been considered on the outset. And the second one I've mentioned already, the National Adaptation Plan, which is to be used now as a structured base for a quick and robust identification of funding needs. So that basically it's not about starting every time the wheel, reinventing the wheel about what can be potential projects, but actually to have a sound base for these kind of projects, which has been developed in that process of National Adaptation Plan developing. Then the access to climate finance. There were a number of activities which we have supported, capacity building for stakeholders in general to raise the profile of that topic with the NDA, of course, looking into the direct access entity, who could actually be in the future direct access entity as Trader would like to have it. And then now we are at the moment supporting the accreditation of the selected DAE, which is Grenadian Development Bank. And when it comes to the resource mobilization on the ground, we have supported ARIA and other colleagues in Grenada in writing a number of proposals and requests, for example, to support the link between climate and health by the German government, which has been approved, a request for the Climate Technology Center and Network, which has been approved, and the Green Climate Fund Readiness Program. And we are right now finalizing the proposal for Grenada to submit it next week to the Green Climate Fund on the water sector in Grenada as well.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Martin Barto and I am representing UNDP ICCAS project, and following up from my colleagues Aria and Dita, I'm reporting on component 3 and 4.2 of the ICCAS project. Component 3 is to increase adaptive capacity of communities, and to do that we had to set up a community climate change adaptation fund, and that was really to provide concrete incentives to community to help them adapt to climate change, and that would be based on extreme weather and climatic events. To set up the fund, we did a lot of vulnerability community assessment and ensuring that we represent project geographically and politically. So, and then we get communities to understand a little about climate change, doing climate change awareness programs. And we launched the fund, and then we received 162 applicants at the concept level, and we don't know if that was an example, a good way of advertising, or whether there was a lot of vulnerabilities in the Grenadian community. But presently, we are implementing 27 projects, and the projects are in the agriculture and water sector, marine and coastal, education and awareness, flood mitigation, recycling, land degradation. And in the water and agriculture, we did a lot of community water storage, and we had a lot of the Carrick, all of them went to Carrick. In total, we added about 240,000 gallons to the national capacity, especially in dry areas, and a lot to schools, which help their food security, where they provide water for school gardening and domestic use. We also did a number of solar-powered drip irrigation systems. In the marine and coastal, a lot of the projects were driven by the restriction within marine protected areas. So fishers wanted alternative fishing areas, so we created what we call fishing aggregating devices, FADs. So now fishers, let's say on Carrick, is catching a lot of fish. Now, then we start looking at post-harvest quality assurance and ensuring that fishers have their fish on ice, and providing CMOS farming as an alternative livelihoods. And where there's offshore fishing communities on Keys, some of these islands we provided solar power systems so they could better communicate, and provided deep freezers so they could store their fish. And around the education and awareness component, we wanted to create discussion forum around climate change in rural communities. So we used to invite popular theater, to reach people that are not often reached by radio and TV. We also, to address the lack of awareness of climate change in schools, we have 2 books that we created around hurricane and drought there in the back. And schools was involved in a number of other initiatives. Okay, moving on, and component 4.2 is really strengthening the awareness and understanding of climate risk and collecting and disseminating information based on our ICCAS project, and we have a number of platforms, website, Facebook, YouTube, and we're doing a number of other best practices, collecting and gathering this information. And this is why we are here, and we have a large booth at the back with a lot of our information. Thank you.
Finally, just quickly, a little bit on the adaptation lessons learned and next steps. I won't belabor quickly. I think one of the key differences that we realized was that the integrated approach and the process used makes a huge difference to our outcome after 4.5 years, and to the robust outputs and outcomes we are looking for out of this. Secondly, political buy-in is key. I've heard this 2 or 3 times during the 3 days. Building sustainability through community ownership was another key lesson that came out of it. The need to be collaborative. And here, not just within government, but also we were able to partner very successfully with the 5 Cs, with ICCAS, and donors like to see those kind of synergies, making it scalable. I think everybody in this room knows about the issues related to proof of concept, and the fact that this is a valid reason to start manageably and to scale up. Once you get it right, then you can scale up. Finally, making lemonade with limes. We had to learn quickly how to make lemonade with limes because Environment Division has moved at least 4 times. And most of the times it was just before a big COP. And it meant then, as my wonderful colleague Dita said, that we get the opportunity firsthand to build every ministry, every PS, and every minister in the need for urgent climate adaptation action. Next steps. Again, integration, I think, was one of the key secrets to our success. We now move to implement our NAP, and here I want to highlight that our NAP is one of the first in the Caribbean region. We are delighted to do further mainstreaming of the Sea Coral tool in collaboration with the 5 Cs, and we are working with climate change focal points which are being set up in all our ministries at this point. With regard to component 2, again, primary data capture. We are delighted to partner, and Grenada is excited at the opportunities presented to us under the CCAP project, as well as working along with CFAS. Under component 3, next steps would involve capitalizing our already set up community adaptation fund. And then under component 4, we still want to work more with our private sector, and our colleague Suzanne from St. Lucia in a prior meeting highlighted that a more holistic approach to where the entry points are for private sector involvement and bringing them into climate change is a useful way to proceed. We have, as indicated, our proposal to the Green Climate Fund we are working on, and piloting ecosystem-based adaptation approaches. Thank you.
I'm just kidding.